uh, to know our concerns and what we want. And that's really the only thing that now disturbing our joy as Syrians is this thing. Now that no weapons, no clashes, completely peaceful liberation. The only thing that some people complained of is the celebrations by the gunshots, even though the opposition forces recommended people and the scholars recommended people not to do that because it might cause some like fear for people, etc. But that's the only thing, and it stopped. And now the only thing we see, and our family in Damascus tell us, is these bombings, these explosions. You see my point? That is a main thing that I hope you guys uh, don't cut.
Yeah, we wanted to. I had heard you had a brother who was in prison. That's
I
why
do.
I
Where
remember
did you hear that?
I heard it from our station. They said that he talked to you yesterday.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they came, but
And
they did not do
I
anything.
wanted to talk to you about that, and we just saw people coming with the Syrian flags and celebrating. So we
Yeah,
did really want to talk about, the celebration for so many of the fall of Assad, and I think that's what we were gonna focus on. If we do follow-ups, we do follow-ups, but that is what, because that's the new and now,
yeah,
that's what we were thinking about for today.
yeah. But yeah, that is the news, and a main concern for us that is disturbing our joy and happiness is that Iran is out, militias of Hezbollah, the Lebanese militias is out. Why they're bombing? Why they're bombing our city? Why they occupied a piece of land on the Syrian border near the Golan Heights?
Well, I will press record and we can get started.
Go ahead. Yeah, I'm ready.
Recording in
So,
progress.
first, just say and spell your first and last name, and then tell me your tie to the conflict. For example, more about your brother.
Abdullah Qadra, AbdullahKhadra. In 2011, in March, the Syrian revolution started with peaceful protests. And with this same shirt that I have kept for my kids, I was shouting in the cities, in the streets of Damascus. With this same shirt, I was shouting in the streets of Damascus in 2011, in the very first few days of the revolution. No more fear, no more fear. And we were demanding reform for the regime. We were demanding basic human rights. But the regime faced us with live ammunition. I saw people shot in the head in front of me, 3 people in the countryside of Damascus. I was about to be killed. We saw how the tanks were put in the street to face the people who had only their voices. But the Syrian regime could not believe that we broke those chains and broke that fear and came out. And you know the rest of the story. The whole world knows, and the whole world saw how the peaceful protests in all of Syria, and then how the Assad regime started shooting at people, bombing the cities and towns that revolted against him.
Have you made contact with your brother? Is he still imprisoned? I know they're trying to get those prisoners out right now.
Almost all of the prisoners are out. We're not aware of any prisons, even though there are hundreds of prisons, but until now we don't have information. Unfortunately, I hope I can fly right now to Syria to be with my mother and my sister in Damascus and my other brothers and cousins and uncles and aunts, but hopefully soon. But until now, we could not know any information about my brother, who did not participate in any way, even in the protest, the peaceful protest that I participated in. He never participated, and yet, almost now 10 years, we know nothing about him. Even my siblings, my family members in Syria, in Damascus, they tried to ask about them, and they were, trying to exploit us by money and just to get some news. But we were not able even to get reliable news about him, whether he's alive or not. And we're still searching. And these prisoners, some of them, they come out, they lost their memory, they come out with crisis, psychological crisis, mental issues. Some of them, they don't know. And we saw videos, horrible videos of old people who have been there for decades, and they don't know their names. They are in terrible medical conditions. So this brutal regime committed crimes against humanity, and that's why the whole Syrian people revolted in all of the cities, even before the opposition forces reached Damascus. And many cities in the countryside of Damascus, those cities liberated themselves, and the regime uh, fell before the opposition forces arrived, because the Syrian people have been suffering from this regime, and their hearts are full of pain and suffering. So once they had the chance, they came out to the streets and they liberated their own cities.
What should people know about what it was like for the Syrian people to be under the regime of Assad?
Can you say that again, please?
What should people know about what it's like to be under Assad?
This is the Assad is this is the son. So we experienced the father for about 30 years and the son for about 24 years. So this is a very big question that needs volumes. And now human rights organizations, they're recording and collecting the information. This is one of the worst regimes in the world. I'll give you some examples. In my own house in Damascus, one of the intelligence agents came to my house and he said, "We have a report that you're holding religious circles in your house." So that was the accusation. That was the crime that they accused me of. In our high school, we were having an after school course, and we were praying together as Muslims. We recommended to pray in a group, and there are many rooms, and they told us, you cannot do that anymore. You have to go to the mosque outside. Imagine, this is the country that claims that, in which this is the country in which more than 75% or 80% Muslims. And this is how they treated us. In the Syrian army, you cannot grow beard or pray in the Syrian army, even though the vast majority are mainstream Muslims. If you cannot even say a word about the regime. Even Syrians, they say walls have ears. They cannot even speak, even when they're in their own houses. They cannot speak about this brutal terrorist regime that terrorized the Syrian people for decades. No human rights, no, only one party that's dominating everything, the Assad family controlling everything, the oil money, the everything, corruption everywhere, bribes everywhere. It is horrible, and it is really a nightmare that ended. It is a nightmare that ended, and that's why you see Syrians everywhere in the world. If you go to the internet, and you will see Syrians everywhere in the world, even the hypocrite Western governments, they're welcoming this, because they know this regime, starting with the father, passing to the son, who was about to put his son as well. They know the atrocities that this regime committed. I wish uh, I was able to go to Syria. I left Syria 2011, not running out of the regime, because I have prior commitments here in the US to serve the Muslim communities and to tell people about Islam. But so I left about 5 months after the revolution started, and from that time until now, I couldn't see my father, and he passed away in Damascus, and I could not see him. Even I After many years in the US, I got advanced parole, so I can go to Lebanon to see my mother, and I saw her, but my father couldn't and didn't want to go to Lebanon because he didn't want me to go because he was afraid of the Lebanese militias who are aiding and supporting Assad to take me and hand me to the regime to be tortured and to be killed. So that was a very painful moment for me that I lost my father and didn't see him for 13 years, and he passed away and I couldn't see him. And my mother got paralyzed also there and I couldn't go and see her, but thank God I was able to see her in Lebanon and then bring her here in a visit a few months ago. So that was these were some really painful moments. I lost my cousin. He was tortured to death in the Assad prisons. We were protesting together in the countryside of Damascus, together in peaceful protests, and they caught him and they put him in the media TV, they put him in the regime TV and tortured him until they forced him to claim or to say that he used weapons, and he never did, and they tortured him to death. And other cousins of mine and many relatives, they were killed and their houses demolished. So this is a tragedy for the whole Syrian people, which really left, according to the United Nations, about 300,000, minimum 300,000 people dead, and tens of thousands tortured in the prisons of the regime. And we know the Caesar law that the Congress passed due to the leaked photos of thousands of prisoners who were tortured to death in the prisons of this brutal regime. So every Syrian family has suffered from this regime. Even the Alawites, who are the sect of this regime, they suffered from him. And now the whole coast of Syria, the whole coast opened the doors for the rebels. Even though they are from different sects, they opened the doors because they know the rebels have no issue with the people because of their background, but they have issues with those who supported Assad and committed the crimes against the Syrian people. So every Syrian family has suffered from this regime. We have Syrians drowned in the oceans trying to flee to Europe. We have Syrian children died in the cold in the tents of refuge, the refugee tents in Lebanon and in other countries near Syria. So it's a tragedy, it's a nightmare that, thank God, it ended only with the help of God, with the support of God. It is a miracle. Until now, we ask one another, is it really real? Are we dreaming, or it is real? But now we see it is real, and that is the help of God and the support of God, because the Syrian people continued to the last moment, even though they were in the north, stranded in the north, they continued preparing and uniting themselves until the regional circumstances allowed, and they found it is a good chance. Russia is busy in Ukraine, and the Iranians and the Lebanese militias, they're busy with the Israelis. So they found this is a good time, and they started this operation, not thinking that they will liberate Damascus. They were just thinking to liberate some neighboring cities, so that the millions of refugees who are in the tents, so that they can come back to their own towns. But God wanted something else, and the whole Syrian people, they were waiting for this moment, and they all revolted and liberated their own cities.
That's incredible. So big reason for celebration. We saw people with the flags riding around Hillsborough Street. We know things are happening in Moore Square. Describe just the energy of how people are feeling today, and then what you hope is next.
Yesterday, before the regime fell, we knew it will fall. So before the rebels reached Damascus, we knew and we saw that the Assad regime forces running away from their locations in Damascus. So we came out to rally to Moore Square yesterday afternoon, and we were the first people to celebrate because we knew it is the end, and we gave dessert and rejoiced because this is a historical moment. It is hope for all of the oppressed people, that no matter how long the oppression continues, no matter how brutal, and no matter who support those brutal and terrorist regimes, even if it's Russia, even if it is whoever it is, the time will come when those oppressors and dictators and occupiers, they will leave, and the free and oppressed people will remain. So it's a historic moment. People are crying, people rejoicing. Uh, this is really a historic day. This is really a historic day, and people went again in the evening to celebrate. And today, also in Moore Square, they also gathered big numbers also to celebrate. This is something that really is worth celebrating and really worth rejoicing. It's an end of nightmare, and now our hope. If you ask me what is next, the beautiful thing about this liberation is that it happened with no bloodshed, especially in the capital, in Damascus. The people came out to the streets welcoming the rebels who came from the southern part of Damascus before the main forces came from the north. They were coming out and welcoming them, and everyone is safe, everyone is secure. The opposition forces said anyone who closes his door and doesn't fight, he's safe. Today is the day of mercy. Today is the day of amnesty. Today is the day of forgiveness. That is really additional joy, because we were afraid. My mother and sister did not sleep the last 2 nights in Damascus. They couldn't sleep. They heard some gunshots and they couldn't sleep. They were afraid, and we're telling them, don't worry. And really, the way Damascus was liberated and the cities around it was amazing, was an ideal of tolerance and an ideal of the peaceful liberation that shows that this regime was fragile from inside, and people were just waiting the chance to topple down this brutal regime.
Thank you so much for your time. If
Most
you
welcome.
have the photos and videos from today, please send them my way. And if
Yeah.
you know of anybody else who might be interested in chatting with us today, we'd love to talk to them too. So feel free to send over that contact.